Mr. Chair, would you like to start or wait another minute or two?
Well, I think we ought to go ahead and start, and I do apologize. I have misplaced your notes. So as we go through this, help me if I'm stepping out of line. I would like to open the meeting of the Groundwater Users Advisory Council Phoenix Active Management Area that advises the Arizona Department of Water Resources. It is now 2 o'clock, and it's appropriate to start with a call to order, welcoming and introductions of each and every one. My name is Stephen Cleveland. I am the chairman of the council. Frank, would you like to?
Frank Fairbanks, Vice Chair of the Council.
Hey, Mr. Bales.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Stephen Bales, calling in from Buckeye, Arizona.
Mr. Roberts.
Good afternoon, Dave Roberts with Salt River Project.
And I think we'd be remiss if we did not introduce at this time Mr. Ron Rayner, who has been kind enough to join us for his last hurrah. He has decided to step down and give Stephen Bales an opportunity to represent him. Mr. Rayner is retiring from the Phoenix AMA GUAC after serving 18 glorious years since the year 2002 as a very valued member. His dedication and commitment to the Phoenix AMA are commendable. He will surely be missed by the remaining GUAC members, the DWR staff, and the entire Phoenix AMA. While we're sad to see him leave, we wish him all the best in his retirement and all of his future endeavors. At this time, I would offer to each of the members an opportunity, observations or comments they'd like to make to Mr. Rayner.
Mr. Chairman, I certainly agree with your comments, and I'd just like to add that throughout these years, he's always had tremendous knowledge of water issues, not only in agriculture, but in all of the other users and all the other industries that are involved in water. And he's been a tremendous gentleman to be able to work with, just a great guy, very innovative and creative, and has added a tremendous amount to the council.
Thank you, Frank. Mr. Roberts?
Well, I would agree with both of your assessments of Ron. I've known Ron since actually when I worked at the department many years ago. And Frank, I think you're spot on with respect to Ron's experience and his knowledge, broader than just agriculture, but obviously in other areas within Arizona. He really understands some of the water challenges we have, and he's been a great asset for us. And I wish him well. He will be missed. And, Steve, you got some big shoes to fill there, bud. So anyway, we wish you the best there, Ron.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Can I respond briefly?
Yes, Mr. Bales, go ahead.
No, this is Ron. But
Oh,
anyway,
okay, Ron. Yes, you may.
I really do want to thank you for all the nice comments. And I want you to know that I certainly respect all of you and all of the input that you've had. Dealing with the water in the state is never an easy thing to tackle. And so by collaborating, we'll always try to find some way forward. And I do appreciate the input that we've had from everybody over the years. So, I figured it was time that somebody that would remember things a little better than I do and respond a little more quickly. Stephen, have at it. I thought about it very carefully before I tried to find somebody to be the replacement. And Stephen has a lot of knowledge, and he comes from a long line of people that have lived close to the land and to the water. So my thanks to all of you. And I may stay on the meeting for a little while, but this is the last you'll hear from me for a while. So anyway, thanks again.
One final comment, Ron, would be that always found it very valuable and timely that your questions, you always created an opportunity for staff to collect additional information or expand the dialogue that enabled us, representing multiple interest groups, to collaborate very well and come to collective proposals and recommendations to the DWR staff as well as to the director. And I want to thank you for helping me from my first day that I walked into Goodyear back in 1983.
There you go.
Trying to figure out why you built your barn in your house in the floodplain.
Yeah.
But that was a different story.
Because that's where the water is.
Yeah, but then the question was, why did you draw the saltiest water you could find?
Yeah. That's another one.
Yes, yes. So at this time, let's go through the list, and Anov, if you will help us have everybody else that's on this call introduce themselves at this moment. Their name, their affiliation.
Sure, Mr. Chair. So I'll start with ADWR introductions, and then we can ask members of the public if they're interested in introducing themselves to write their name in the comment or the chat box. So my name is Aina Venezon, and I'm with the Active Management Area section with the Department of Water Resources.
And this is Kennedy Shepard, Groundwater User Advisory Council Coordinator.
And we also have Amanda on the line. Amanda, would you mind introducing yourself?
Sure. My name is Amanda Long Rodriguez, and I am the Management Plans Program Coordinator with ADWR.
And again, members of the public, if you're interested in introducing yourself, please do write your name in the chat box and your affiliation if you're interested in providing that information as well.
Mr. Udall.
I'm busy writing a chat, but I'm Executive Director of the Agribusiness and Water Council of Arizona. Been around since 1978. We're tasked with working on the Groundwater Management Act. Been around ever since. I want to put out a shout out to Ron Rayner. I've known him since he worked with my dad way back in the 80s on the state and federal levels. He's definitely a go-to guy, and Stephen has some tough shoes to fill, and I just want to thank Ron for all he's done and is doing. But I'd be remiss as executive director if I didn't mention that we have an virtual annual conference coming up on September 16th. If you're interested, send me a note. We'd love to have you.
Great. Carol? Can you introduce yourself?
Good afternoon, I'm Carol Ward. I'm the Deputy Assistant Director for Planning and Permitting here at the department.
Anyone else I know of?
And Mr. Chair, Kennedy can read the members of the public who introduced themselves over the chat right now.
All right, so
Okay,
here
that's
with us
great.
we have,
Go
sorry,
ahead.
here with us we have Cindy Blackmore from the city of Avondale, Heather Turntine from the town of Gilbert, Sheila Ellers from ATC Group Services, Joanne Tom, city of Glendale, Melinda, lost my place. Melinda Whittington, Arizona Department. Oh, everybody's shouting in. Where was I? Arizona Water Company. We have Pam Justice from Arizona Water, Arizona Project Wet. Anthony Beckham from SRP. Sam Draper, AMWA. Crystal Drysdale from the city of Phoenix. Gary Gold, U.S. Senator for Kristen Sinema. Heidi Koski from Arizona State Land Department. Jennifer Davidson from the city of Surprise.
Is that it?
Yeah, oh, one more. Shayna Shea from Global Water Resources. And Sandra Hobart from Arizona Project Wet.
Well, I appreciate the fact that we normally do not do this portion of introductions at our open meetings in a single combined space. But since we are remote, I thought it'd be appropriate to at least ensure that everybody had an understanding of the great interest and the time commitments that everyone has taken to join us in this particular meeting. So again, thank everyone for coming and being a part of this meeting. We have allotted approximately 2 hours for this meeting, and it is subject to making sure that we at least get through all the information that is before us. The second item on our agenda is to ask Kennedy, is there any webinar logistics that you need to share with us?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I just have a few points I'd like to make before we get started for our meeting. The first thing I want to let everyone know, members of the public, we do ask that you please keep your phone muted during this meeting. That just helps with any audio feedback. Members, of course, you are more than welcome to stay unmuted during this time. Members from the public, if you do have any questions or comments throughout the meeting, please feel free to put them in the chat box, or if you would like to address members of the council, the call public is going to be your time to do so. I do want to remind everybody that this meeting is being recorded and will be made public, and that includes everything that is being said in the chat box. If you have any technical difficulties, our help desk is here for you, and their number and email can be found on the screen. Thanks, Mr. Chair. That's all I have.
Thank you, Kennedy. Item number 3 on our agenda is the election of the GUAC chair and vice chair. This occurs every 2 years. And at this time, is there anyone interested in taking over the chore of the chair? If not, I will be willing to be nominated again.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to nominate Steve Cleveland to be chair and Frank Fairbanks to be vice chair.
There's a motion and a second. There's a motion for both chair and vice chair. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, Frank, thank you.
Okay.
Any comments on said motion? All in favor of the motion that Stephen Cleveland be chair and Frank Fairbanks be vice chair, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, you get to see our face for 2 more years. Thank you very much. We'll move on to item number 4, which is we have the update on our water management plan and also withdrawal fee recommendations. Einav, you have this task.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Kennedy pulled up the table that you should see on the screen. So this table breaks down groundwater withdrawal fee rates and money collected in the past 5 years. Withdrawal fees for year 2020, as you probably remember, are set at $3.25, 25 cents going towards the Water Management Assistance Program that supports conservation, augmentation, and research and of water availability projects in the active management area. 50 cents go towards the Administration and Enforcement Fund, and $2.50 going towards the Water Bank Fund. Today, GOEC members are asked to make a recommendation to ADWR Director regarding the rate of Water Management Assistance Program and Admin and Enforcement components of the withdrawal fee for reporting year 2021, and this money will then be collected in 2022. So the highlighted sections under the 2021 column you see all the way on the right are the withdrawal fee statutory framework. So the components of the fee that goes towards the Water Management Assistance Program cannot exceed $2. The component of the fee that goes towards the admin and enforcement can be set between 50 cents and $1, and the water bank fee is set at $2.50. You can see below the table, and if you can scroll down a little bit, excellent. So our current balance in the Water Management Assistance Program Fund is $1,198,000. However, we do have several ongoing projects, which I will go over in just a moment. And these projects have an encumbered amount totaling in $621,000. So after we deduct these committed funds, the remaining balance that we currently have in the WMAP account is about $577,000. I want to take a second and just mention to all of you that we're very close to finalizing the funding decision for the proposed projects that are to be funded with the $1,245,000 allocated to the Phoenix AMA through the groundwater, to the groundwater conservation grant that I'm sure you all remember we discussed last meeting. We are working on verifying some final details and working with the applicants to make sure that everything is in place. Excuse me, before we make those announcements, but we do hope to make the funding announcement very soon here. So with that, I can either answer any questions you have here, or we can go over the projects that we currently have funded in more details and then answer any questions you have.
One question, this is Stephen, Chairman, and that is the grant monies that you just mentioned part of the amount shown at the bottom of the page?
No, sir. This amount in the bottom is only through withdrawal fee fund. So this is the amount that we have in addition to the $1,245,000.
So the $577,000 is the amount available for any projects that have sought funding from us through the current process.
Correct.
And what is the status on those projects?
Okay, so we can move on to the ongoing projects, and Kennedy will pull out this document in just a moment here. And in the meantime, I do want to apologize. It's probably very small, so you don't necessarily need to read everything, but I can go over and explain what you're looking at here. So we do have the highlighted 3 projects that we have top are from Arizona Project WET, which we'll hear about in one of our next agenda items. And this is to renew the project, and we'll hear about all the accomplishment that we had this past year with this project. We're also going to hear from Crystal from the City of Phoenix about the phase 1 of the regional water use study, and she will present the finding of this study and also propose moving on to a phase 2 of the study. So we also will hear from Crystal about that. Some of the other projects that we currently have active is the Water Loss Technical Assistance Program that EMWA leads to allow EMWA cities to improve their water loss performance. We also have the Smartscape Professional Landscaping Training that you're all very familiar with. We fund this project for many years, or program. We have the Water Conservation Management Program, and this is again a project that we fund for many years now. If you can scroll down a little bit more. Water Use It Wisely is another program that you're very much familiar with, the Regional Conservation Campaign, and the Xeriscape Demonstration Garden that we approved last year, I believe, with the City of Surprise. And we do have a couple ongoing standing items such as conservation outreach, messaging programs, and water level monitoring. The other 3 projects are just ideas that have been put out there and need development, so I don't necessarily need to go over those at that point. And I do want to move on to the 3rd page here that breaks down the balance, and that may help Mr. Chair to explain how the funds are allocated at that point. So the top section breaks down the current projects and some of the encumbered funds, so you can see those reach 621,000. So the balance that we have after all of these committed funds, as I mentioned before, is about $577,000. We're going to hear from and of course the funding standing items that I mentioned. In the purple area, these are the proposed projects or programs that we're going to hear about today, and the proposed amounts for renewal for Arizona Project WET is $100,000, which is $50,000 for 2 years. And this is an amount that we've been awarding Arizona Project WET for several years now. And the second project here is the Regional Multifamily Water Use Study, and this is phase 2 of the project that we'll hear again in a little bit here. If both of these programs and projects will be funded, we are looking at remaining balance of $253,000. So this is the balance that would remain, again, if GOEC members recommend to fund those projects and the director agreed to fund both of these projects for these amounts, we will remain with $253,000 for this year. And of course, next year we're going to collect more withdrawal fees, and this fund will grow. And really, just briefly, if you can scroll down, please. The last page just breaks down the projects by sector. We do have several projects that are benefiting all of the sectors. We do have the Water Conservation Management Program that is more towards the agricultural sector. We have several industrial sector projects and several municipal sector projects, or projects that benefit mainly the municipal sector. I would say that a lot of these programs are actually benefiting more than one sector. So this is a relatively brief summary of all the current ongoing projects and programs. As you can see, it's been a busy year, and we're looking forward to keep on working with those entities on these programs and projects and seeing all the good work that's been done so far. And I'll be happy to take any questions you may have at that point.
Do any of the council members have questions of any of?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Frank.
Frank Fairbanks, and let me start by complimenting Enov and the staff, because really there are a lot of irons in the fire, and all of these things are moving ahead and making a difference. So thank you for the good work. My question is, I'm really trying to figure out how much money we have compared to how much we are committed to for next year. And if we go back a chart, I thought for a second that the last chart kind of said that. But then in this chart, I don't see the money for the Agricultural Assistance Program, which is a long-standing program that's very important. So my question is, a long-winded way to get there, how much money is available compared to how much is needed to fund the programs that we could reasonably expect to be ongoing? Again, some things haven't been approved yet, but they're things we have been doing in past years and that most people assume we're going to continue to do.
And
Thank you,
that is
Mr. Fairbanks.
a
Go ahead,
great
Anna.
question. So we are, and this is in the first sheet that Kennedy showed, but let's talk a little bit about here so you can you can see here, Mr. Fairbanks, that one of the projects, 1, 2, 3, it's the third project on the orange, the top orange lines there, is the Water Conservation Management Program. We are in contract with them for, I believe, 2 years, and we're still having, I don't remember exactly the time that it is expiring, but I believe it's at least in a year from now. So we're only going to renew the funds in 2 years, and the money is already encumbered for that program until the contract expires. And that goes towards all of those projects that you see in the orange column. So the money that remains, it's for either renewal of existing projects or for brand new projects. And again, as I mentioned, we do have 577 available at that point.
So let me see if I have this right. So the orange programs, those are funded through 2020 or 2021?
It depends. Each program starts at a different date and ends at a different date. So if you can move on to the first page. So you can see here, we have the duration, or at least in the fifth column here where it says duration, you can see when the project expires. So for example, the Water Loss Technical Assistance Program expires at the end of 2021. The Smartscape Professional Landscaping Training also would terminate at the middle of the 2021 year. We're looking at the Water Conservation and Management Program will go till the end of October 2021, and so forth. So it depends on the project, but as I go through here and look at them, most of them will only expire at the middle or the end of 2021. So we do have those funds already encumbered and are not included in the free amount that I mentioned of 577,000.
The fee, we're getting there.
Okay.
The fee we're talking about is the fee for 2021, correct?
The fee that you're going to recommend today, sir?
Yes.
Yes, correct. This is for 2021, and it
will
will be collected in 2022.
22, right, correct.
Okay, so now let's cut through all of these programs, and there's a lot of them with different dates. At the current level of funding and with the current balances, is there enough funding available to cover the programs that are approved and that traditionally we would approve, but haven't been approved, but traditionally we would approve for the period of time we're looking at here.
So if you don't mind me taking a second, I can calculate what we're funding on a yearly basis here and provide you with some information.
The short answer, Frank, yes.
Oh, well, I'm happy with yes. And I'm also happy with no.
This also does not take into account money that'll be collected in the spring of 21.
Correct. We are collecting every year. We're collecting more money from the withdrawal fees as annual reports start to being submitted. So that is definitely correct. So what I currently have is about 260,000 on a yearly basis if we are to fund the ongoing projects that we usually do. If it's Smartscape, Water Conservation Management Program, Xeriscape, Water Use It Wisely. I would say that in the past, and if it's too much trouble to move to that table.
You know that I'm not searching for the last penny certainty. I'm happy with the general judgment, your good judgment, that either there is enough money to continue what we're doing or there isn't.
I would say for the next year we would. However, if I look at the table, and if you can scroll down up, yeah, we have been collecting about 200,000 in the past 3 years, and we are looking at 260,000 ongoing amount. So again, for next year, maybe even the year after, we are going to be okay with what we have. However, if we want to continue funding all of these projects for the long term, that may be we may be collecting a little less than what those projects require.
You know, what year would we need to take action to make sure we could continue the program at about the same general level we've been doing? Is that 2021? Is that 2022, 2023?
For now, because I don't have all the calculations currently, I would say in the next couple of years, maybe few years, but I'll be more than happy to make those calculations and let you know next meeting. And I have a little bit more data and could get back to you with more information on that.
I think that would be a good idea.
Excellent.
You know, because of our last meeting where we dealt with the $1.2 million in special funds, we'll have a one-time expansion. So perhaps the need to add more programs this year is not necessary. But it is important that we continue some of these good ongoing programs. And it sounds as if and let me know if I'm wrong, Enoch, it sounds as if the current 25-cent fee allows us to continue the existing programs at least through 2021.
Correct, at least through 2021. I would suggest probably even another year or two after that.
Okay, thank you. That answers my question.
I know as long as it's in 2023 where we have some issues, that'll be fine because I'll be retiring in 2022.
I'll take that into account.
But Mr. Roberts, we're not going to allow you to pass that responsibility on to the next your replacement. You have to make a judgment that carries for the next 5 years after you leave. How would that be?
Let's see what my grandkids have to say about that.
Yeah. this is the kind of discussion that is very difficult without us all being in the same room, but I think that it has been great. It covers the fact that those projects that are being funded today, we have sufficient monies to continue those programs as warranted by their positive success and by our decisions that we should continue them. It does, in my mind, leave unanswered whether or not how much money there's going to be available for, quote, new programs that might merit some consideration in this next go around. That's my only hesitancy of leaving it at the current 50 cents or 25 cents that we're sitting at. And this decision that we make, we have to submit to the recommendation, has to be submitted to the director by what date, Anov?
By what date, you mean?
What date are we required to submit our recommendation?
So withdrawal fee recommendations hopefully would be done today by the members, and the director will make his final withdrawal fee rate determination by October 1st, on which he would notify the state treasurer of those rates for the 5 AMAs.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Frank.
I presume that we were voting today.
Yes.
And you know, in past years, I have made motions to increase the rate in order to do the things we need to do to protect water in Arizona.
Right.
And I still have that opinion. However, I'd have to guess that today it will not be easy to get 3 votes to raise the rates. It looks as if the 25 cents is adequate to continue the high priority programs. Again, you make an excellent point. Each of these programs needs to be reviewed and no
Right.
funding should be taken for granted, but presuming that they all continued their excellent performance, we still have the funding to fund them. So I guess what I'm saying, Mr. Chairman, is that I guess I would move the 25 cents be continued for this year. Again, seeing that we haven't really demonstrated a need today. But I won't make that motion yet in order to let other people comment and perhaps they have different views.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Roberts, comment?
I'm of the same opinion as Mr. Fairbanks relative to keeping the fee at the current rate. Partly because I think we do have enough funding to fund the projects that are in the queue right now. I'm hopeful that some of the projects that we are going to fund through that special funding package that we got and that we reviewed at our last meeting, that there'll be some new projects that come out of that might even be more valuable than some of the projects we have been funding. So we'll just have to wait and see. Mm-hmm. And those might have actually better cost share arrangements with us. And so maybe our dollars can go further, but we'll have to wait and see as we go along. The other factor that I think we need to keep in mind, and it's something that's affected all of us and a lot of businesses throughout the world and throughout our country and our state, is dealing with the pandemic and what's that mean, what that has meant to businesses. And you know, hopefully next year we're going to be in a state of recovery, and I think keeping the rate where it is now will be, you know, we just need to be mindful that we need to recover from where we've been on the pandemic, and our businesses that pay the pumps tax, keeping us at the same rate would be helpful, I think, to them. So I think those are my views on it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bales, your comments.
Yeah. Members, I I appreciate the comments, and I stand with them in light of everything that was said. I don't need to say much about the ag sector, but like everybody, we're essential. We're continuing to work, but our commodity prices are suffering right now. So a raise would not be looked upon very favorably. But as a newbie, I need to ask for a point of clarification. You guys deal in a lot of acronyms and initials.
Yes, we get away with it
We don't always
until you
like it.
show up.
And while Ron did a good job, gave me a tutorial, but there's a lot, to compact in his 18 years. But we're dealing with that top line on the current screen, the WMAP, and I look at 2019, 190,473.
Mm-hmm.
That's the
Yeah.
Okay, we go along with that. Is there also a breakdown between the sectors where these fees come from?
At that point, I do not have a breakdown, sir. That's something that we could provide in the future if we have a way. We'll have to see if we have a way to calculate and separate those, but we'll definitely look into that.
Appreciate it. And last thing for me, what happened in 16? How'd you get so much money that year?
So back in 2016, the Water Management Assistance Program, so the WMAP, was funded at 50 cents. Back in 2016 or 2017, there was a new fee that was introduced, and you can see the administration and enforcement fee, the second line there, started to be collected at 50 cents. And at that point, members recommended, and the director went through this recommendation to reduce the Water Management Assistance Program to 25 cents. So the total withdrawal fee increased in 25 cents, but it didn't increase in 50 cents, as it could have been if the Water Management Assistance Program fees would have remained at 50 cents.
Yeah, thank you. I recall that. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Of course.
So having heard the discussion, are we prepared to receive a recommendation for action on this matter? And I think Frank just stepped away.
Mr. Chair, I would make a motion that we make a recommendation to the director that we keep the various fees the same for 2021 as they were for 2020.
At 25 cents.
Correct.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, the question is called for. So all in favor of recommending to the director to maintain the WMAP withdrawal fee at 25 cents. All in favor?
Aye.
Is there any opposed? Then motion carries. Mr. Bales, did you vote yes?
I voted yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
I'll vote yes. So it's a 4-0 vote. Staff, good. You need more information on this topic?
That is perfect for us. I just want to make sure that I understand that this motion also includes to keep the admin and enforcement fee at 50 cents. That is correct, right?
Frank, you include that in your motion?
Well, it wasn't my motion, but my second includes that. I guess in theory, we could raise the admin and enforcement from 50 cents on up to $1 or anything in between. But we did not hear a request from the department. That money would, so does the department have a request or a need for additional money?
No, sir, there is no request. I just want to make sure that the motion did include those two components, and I would suspect they are. I just wanted to confirm on record.
I think it's Mr. Roberts' motion, but my second.
The motion I made, Ineb, was to cover all the various components of the fee and keeping them the same for 2021 as they were in 2020.
And the second concurs.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Bales, any questions?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, so the motion was made that all these fees as presented here would remain the same in terms of the total of 325, and that staff would take that forward to the director, a unanimous vote.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. And she said that was the easy one, guys. Okay, so did we take care of both 4A and 4B?
Correct, sir.
So we are prepared to move forward with 4C, which is a presentation on the Arizona Project Wet Activities by Pam Justice. Pam, are you ready?
I am, Steve. Thank you.
Take it away.
Good afternoon, and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to share our accomplishments with you guys from this past year. If you want to, I think, Kennedy, would you mind moving to the next slide? I will say next. So we do two things, actually three things. Our goal is to make better water stewards out of our young people. And so we do that three ways. We give teacher workshops, which involves instructional practices and content knowledge about water. And we also have direct student programs that we deliver in the classroom to students. And some of our programs, they even get to go out into the field, and like our Riparian habitat activity, where the end of a learning unit is, the closure is actually being out at either Hacienda Preserve or the Salado Habitat Restoration Site. So, and the third thing we do is we include the public and the community in those programs. So we can't do some of those unless we have volunteers to help us with the numbers of, just the sheer numbers of students that we take out into the field. Our water festivals are require just loads of volunteers. If you ever have an opportunity when you want to get away from your computer and away from your desk and would like to join us, we'd love to have you be one of our mentor scientists or volunteers at one of our water festivals. So next, we have, again, if you look at that middle star, the students are our main priority, and all we do is to support those students in their knowledge gain about water in Arizona. So we do teacher academies. We did 19 days of professional development for teachers this summer, all virtual online. And then the other four, groundwater, riparian area, the engineering design, the school water audit, and the water scene investigation, were all classroom delivered projects that impacted students. And you'll see that our indirect, which our student number, the 11,226, that's the number of students that the teachers affect on a daily basis with the knowledge that we share with them. And then our direct contact with students. And again, we are statewide, but this is just the Phoenix GUAC numbers, the Maricopa County numbers. Our direct contact was 3,687 students this year. So we have a lot of contact with students. Next. Oh, that's Drippy. I think he met Drippy earlier in the year. He's our new mascot. So again, the first part of our IGA is delivering teacher professional development, and we do that. the tasks that we have assigned are by sheer numbers of days that we deliver a workshop. So over the course of the summer, the total number of teachers that attended a workshop was 262 teachers. They all attended virtually, and you can see a screenshot from one of our workshops with the teachers that were working with us on that particular workshop. They again reach over 11,000 students. Next. So our multi-day academies, that task 1 of Roman numeral 2 is our multi-day academies, and those are all AquaSTEM unit academies. So those are 3 days each in duration, and the precursor to any of those 3, they have to take a 2-day, 3-day learning and systems thinking workshop, which teaches them about how to deliver our programs in the best manner and how to deliver the Arizona standards using 3-dimensional learning, which is supported by the Department of Education. So they do that first, and then they choose to do rainwater harvesting, waters of our world, riparian habitat exploration. They are actually units that the teachers teach in the classroom. We go in and do supportive presentations on things that maybe they wouldn't have the knowledge or a model to use. And then at the end of those, we always have activities that we do with the students, hands-on activities. So I'll tell you about each one of those. There were 32 teachers that chose to select these units. These units are anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks of classroom time that the teacher commits to delivering for their students. Next. Then we have our 2-day workshop, which is our workshop on the Colorado. We've done this several years in a row. This year we had 22 middle and high school teachers attend virtually, acting 2,410 students. At every one of our workshops, we try to do some kind of an engineering design process. And next screen. In the past, we've done this picture that's on the left, lower left. That is actually a model that we have the teachers build replicating the 336-mile long Central Arizona Project Canal. This is actually, the length of this particular model is 33.6 feet with an elevation rise of 36 inches. So the teachers have to take water from a bucket on the ground, 33.6 feet with an elevation rise of 36 inches. They get these materials. We tell them the dimensions, but we don't tell them how to build it. They get 3 solar powered pumps and they pump water uphill or gravity feed it down to the next, pump it up to the next reservoir. And they have to figure that out on their own as teams. The teachers can borrow those solar pumps from us, but we thought, well, let's make it even easier for them. And so we designed a tabletop CAP model for them to construct and for their students to construct in the classroom using plastic storage containers and cups and lotion pumps instead of solar pumps. And they have to move the water 33.6 inches with a rise of 10 inches. So this is a group actually of administrators from, I believe, Creighton School District. Their entire administration, including all of their superintendent and all of their principals, attended a Project WET training so that they could do this with their teachers in their entire district. And if you move to the next slide, this year, we didn't even have the teachers do that. We had them just construct an engineering device to lift a weight using the power of water. So this is a picture of one of the teachers' end products. They had to videotape their device and send it to us as part of their work for the workshop. And actually this, if you'll have to watch it very closely, because this is a video. And Kennedy, if you could play that video, it's only like 10 seconds. It should be clickable right, there you go. So this teacher is not wanting to play. So this teacher utilized straws and a plastic lid, and then taped some little solo cups to the plastic lid and lifted the weight, made a water wheel, and lifted this binder clip 10 inches off of the surface of the table. We had all kinds of interesting devices that teachers came up with that we wouldn't even have thought. We've used the water wheel concept, but they did some really unusual things. So they had their minds working. Next. Task 3 is our one-day workshops, and as you may know, we put on about 25 water festivals across the state of Arizona. And if a teacher is going to bring their students to the water festival, they must attend a one-day workshop where they learn the activities that they're going to be doing prior to taking their students to the water festival, and then post-water festival activities. We had 208 fourth grade teachers that were either new or had not attended a training in, I think it's 2 years, and had to do training again here in Maricopa County. And those teachers impact 6,448 students. Next. Then the Roman numeral 3 of our IGA talks about our direct student outreach programs, which we've talked about prior to, the water scene investigation and the school water audit, water harvesting, engineering design, and the wonders of our world, which include groundwater systems and riparian habitat exploration. Next. Next. So our WSI, our water scene investigation, is actually a home faucet audit that children do. They change an aerator on a faucet at their home, and the school water audit is actually changing aerators on faucets at school. Next. I think we have Jerky coming into the picture again. Next. So our WSI, our water scene investigation, we delivered to 30 sixth grade classes across the valley to 800 students. Their estimated savings for the year at their homes, all combined, is 769,968 gallons of water. We had one school in Litchfield Elementary School District, Western Sky Middle School, they have 10 sixth grade classes. Every sixth grader on that campus did a WSI, and one of the classes decided to do a school water audit. Next. That class had 27 sixth graders. They changed 78 aerators on their campus, in science labs, in the cafeteria, in the bathrooms. And their estimated savings for just the school year, not of 365 days, but just the 185 days that they felt the facilities were going to be used, they projected their savings to be 2,373,290 gallons of water. And that's in the Liberty Utilities water delivery area. And the estimated cost savings to that school district is around, just to that school, is $4,500. So, and I think their total classes, the 10 classes, were going to save over 600,000 gallons. So it was a over 3 million gallons savings for the students at that school. If you don't think they were proud of themselves, you should have. Yeah, it was a sight to see. They were celebrating. And their principal wants us to come back, of course, this year. Next. Our task 5 was our engineering design, which was the rainwater harvesting. These students, there were 99 students that did this program. They learned just a ton about saving water from gathering rainwater from their roof. And they looked at different types of roof materials that, and which of those would actually shed more water than another. And so there was a huge knowledge gain for them in their understanding of the variables that they found in the calculations for collecting those rainwater from different surfaces. Next. And our groundwater system in riparian areas, our groundwater, we have an hour-long groundwater presentation that we deliver to either 4th or 6th grade classes. They're each just a tad different, which one's more appropriate for 4th and the other's more appropriate for 6th. We were in 85 classes delivering that program to 2,455 students. Next, there. So we use 3 models when we do that groundwater presentation. The left picture on the lower left is earth material tubes, where we show children how water moves through different sizes of earth materials. There's gravel in one and sand in the other. They're amazed at how fast the water travels through the gravel. The one on the far right is a groundwater model, and they get to actually pump. Those little lines you see represent well casings, and there's a little well bowls at the bottom. They actually pump water out of those and can see the water moving from between the earth materials up into the pump and out into a container. So they get a better idea of how water works in the ground since we can't see it. These concepts that are on the top that we've listed here are more for older kids. Our young kids, we just want them to understand that groundwater flows by gravity through the pores and spaces, that the groundwater and surface water are connected, that it's part of the water cycle, and why we use it, which is why they have to care. 70% of the state of Arizona is dependent on groundwater, and we try to help them understand that and then how it actually functions in the ground where they can't see it. Next. And this is just a picture of a classroom. You can see the little groundwater models on the tables, and they are engaged. They are excited. They want to answer Sandra's question there, and it's a very engaging hands-on activity that we do with them. Next. Their knowledge gain is listed here, and it's amazing how much they learn after just 1 hour of teaching them about groundwater. They had a difference between year before last and this past year. They had a 63% knowledge gain in those students about water's movement through earth materials. 80% in the fact that it's connected to the surface water and it gets down there and pulled by gravity. So it's a great knowledge gain for these kids. Next. Our final program is the Riparian Habitat Exploration. That's the one where we take them at the end of their learning unit. They actually work together in teams and become a particular type of scientist. So they're studying entomology, they're a water chemist, or they're a biologist, and their groups have written pre-questions they're trying to prove once they get out there. So they're looking at things like tracks and scat, or they're collecting macroinvertebrates and counting types and numbers. Just all kinds of interesting things that they do out there. Again, this is that program where we need lots of volunteers. So this year, before COVID hit, we had 10 classes that with 307 students that actually got to go out into the Riparian area. And we had 94 volunteer mentor scientists that helped us do that. And their knowledge gain about the biodiversity that they found in that riparian area and how much biodiversity it supports was 187%. I mean, their knowledge doubled in what they knew about riparian areas. Next. So COVID-19 put a stall on on actually having Project Wet go into the classroom. So we took our programs and converted them into virtual online programs that parents and the public could use. We advertised those on our social media pages. ADWR's newsletter from May had an article about what we were doing and how we were meeting the needs of students despite what was happening with COVID. So we took our, if you get a chance, please go to these links and look at these programs. We took our Arizona Water Festival program virtual. That is going to stay virtual through this school year because I don't think we're going to get to have a water festival. And so we actually have all aspects of the water festival being delivered to students virtually in the classroom. Our water scene investigation's gone virtual. We have a leak detection program that we're doing virtually. So we're still, Arizona Project Wet is still meeting students' needs. Next. Again, we can teach remotely. We found that out. We've been doing it. All of our teacher workshops were online this summer, and teachers need that assistance and need that help. They still need that content knowledge to share with their students. Next. And again, these are just those three programs, the water scene investigation, the Arizona Water Festival, and the Where's Our Water, which is the water conservation. Just snapshots from our website where those live. Next. So again, why should you continue supporting Project Wet? Students just don't get exposed to these kind of subjects in the regular curriculum. They get hands-on, they get to touch things, and it's real-world relevant activities. They're all STEM-based, they meet the standards. With the water scene investigation, it saves schools, homes, money, and water, and it saves groundwater. Next. Thank you for your continuing support. I would answer any questions you might have, or I will try to.
Pam, thank you very much. It's exciting, even if it is difficult to touch it from here. The level of impact you've had in your various schools throughout the state of Arizona, is this being modeled anywhere else?
You mean in other states?
Yes.
Our affiliate is Project Wet USA. They actually started Project Wet back in the 90s. There is a Project Wet coordinator delivering water education in every state in the nation and every territory. And Project Wet has even gone international. And I think we're in 40 different countries around the world.
Well, super, super. Questions from council members or observations? I think this is a great project. Well deserved.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, this is Dave Roberts. Pam, I agree with Steve. I think it's a great program. I really enjoy your passion for the work that you do. You've been doing it for a while. And I think it's great, all the work that you do for our children, and teaching them about water conservation and using water in a very effective and a useful way, but also wisely as well. So I just appreciate all that you do, and I am grateful that you dedicate your time to this. You know, it's not easy, and I appreciate that very much. SRP appreciates it very much, so thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Mr. Chairman, I wanted to say congratulations, great presentation, Pam. First time I've got to see this. I'm not surprised the excellence seeing it because that students all over. And let me ask you specifically, other than it's water, and that pertains to agriculture, but what's the ag behind in a specific way?
Well, some of the, it depends on the workshop and what we're talking about, but we always talk about the fact that we eat and that we supply most of the United States in the wintertime with our winter vegetables. And it is a very, very important part of our water usage in Arizona. So we talk about that a lot when we're talking about how do we use water in Arizona and why we should conserve it, because we like food and we like to eat, and we want that, we want the farmers to continue growing our food. So we do talk about those types of things.
Good. Thank you, Pam. I appreciate it.
And Mr. Bale's comments, I think there's an opportunity to, Pam, if you would add that to your closing slides as to broader impact.
Sure, I can do that.
Frank, did you have any comments you wanted to make?
I think everything's been said. Thank you. Good program.
Thank you, Frank.
Very, very, very good. Thank you, Pam. Let's move on to the next presentation.
Mr. Chair, this is Einav.
Yes.
Before we move on, I would just like to mention that Arizona Project WET contract expires at the end of this month. So if the members are interested in discussing renewal of this program, now will be the time to do so. And we propose the renewal of 2 years for $100,000, as we funded in the past, $50,000 per year, if this is something that the members would be interested in entertaining.
So to the council members, do I have a motion to act upon staff's recommendation? Dave? Frank?
I'd move approval, although we should carefully look at our agenda, because I'm not sure about the posting, but I would move approval of that, I guess, if it's legal.
Einav?
So it is legal. This agenda item number 4 is for information, discussion, and action. So it is legal to make a motion to renew.
Okay, Frank, is that a motion to renew?
So moved.
Okay, for a period of 2 years.
As Enoch suggested.
Okay, Einav, you comfortable with the recommendation and the motion to fund this program for an additional 2 years?
Yes, sir.
Any discussion on the motion?
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, please.
Back when we looked at those earlier slides about the ongoing projects and the amounts of money, I noticed on Project WET, the 50,000 per year, but it stated a 100,000 number. For accounting purposes, do they take all 100,000 out of the current year, or do they share it between the 2-year commitment?
Einav?
Yeah, that's a great question, Mr. Bells. Usually IGAs or any contract in general, the payments are divided throughout the length of the contract or the intergovernmental agreement, as we have with U of A. So they would provide every 3 to 6 months or so, they'll provide a deliverable explaining and demonstrating all the impacts that they have had those past few months, and then we would issue a portion of the payment. So it does spread across those 2 years or 1 year or however long the contract is.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
Chairman, there was a motion, but I'm not sure I heard a second.
I'd like to offer a second.
Okay.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second to fund this project for an additional 2 years at $50,000 per year for a total of $100,000. Is that a correct motion, Frank?
Yes.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, committee.
Thank you, Pam.
So let's move on to item 4D, which is the regional water use study, phase 1 findings, Crystal Drysdale.
Sorry, can everyone hear me now?
Yep.
Oh, okay, sorry, my mic wasn't working. I apologize, I don't have a camera today. I'll only be on audio. But thank you, Mr. Chair and council members, for having me. I'm going to present our phase 1 study looking at the single family residential sector. This is a joint effort that the city of Phoenix did with the city of Glendale and the town of Gilbert. So next slide, please. So as water resource planners, it's important for us to understand our key trends and our consumptive uses from our different customers. This is so we can forecast future water demands and identify water conservation targets. Water for our consumptive use is tracked by utilities, and we use this information for water management planning, long-term infrastructure planning, and of course, setting our budgets and financing. So we know basically how much water is being delivered to our customers' homes, but it's important for us to also understand how they're using this water. Next slide, please. So City of Phoenix is one of the fastest growing cities in the nation, as we know. We are almost at 1.7 million people. We've seen a growth of over 360,000 people over the last 20 years. However, overall water use per customer has fallen tremendously, about 30% since the early 1990s. So where a customer might be using on average 145 gallons per day, now we're sitting at a little over 90 gallons per day. So this indicates to us that customers are becoming more water efficient. And so we want to understand this a little bit better so we can identify conservation strategies. So next slide, please. The reason why this study was important was because Phoenix is very unique in its climate to much of the rest of the U.S. So it can be difficult when we're looking at other forecasting models that other cities across the U.S. are using. And this is largely because of our outdoor landscaping. We maintain a lot of desert landscape, we irrigate in our winter months, and we don't contain a large area of grass and tree canopy. Next slide, please. So the study was important so we could identify the determinants of water demand reductions. We specifically wanted to look at what indoor trends are consistent across the cities for the Phoenix Metro, looking at indoor appliances, fixtures, and the age of home, what outdoor trends are consistent across various cities, so looking at lot size, outdoor landscapes, pool use, and irrigation. And then how can we use this information for additional cities and larger regional modeling? Next slide, please. So the project actually took a large coordinated effort across the 3 cities for about 3 years. We had over 20 city employees involved doing various parts of the project. It took us a year and a half just to kind of come together and put together the plan itself. But 9 months of primary data collection, which all the cities participated in, and 6 months of analysis. What this allowed us to do is to compare water end uses across cities that have very similar climate, economy, and cultural attributes, but we all have very different housing mixes, urban design patterns, and water rate policies. Next slide, please. So this slide has a lot of numbers on it, and for time's sake, I'll just let you know, this is to show you how the 2 samples that we used for outdoor and indoor was representative of each of the cities themselves in the key statistics that we wanted them to be. So although Phoenix has 305,000 customers and Glendale and Gilbert smaller when we're looking at the single family sector. In our average build year, Phoenix is a little bit older than Gilbert. So homes on average built in 1979 versus 2000. The average consumption was relatively the same per household at 330 gallons per day, 322, and 382. Average home size was slightly smaller in Phoenix compared to Glendale and Gilbert, but average lot size was about 9,000 square feet for all cities. And then the rest of the statistics are really just to identify that we were in line with those numbers for our samples. We evaluated about 1,000 homes for each city in the outdoor sample and a little over 100 homes in the indoor sample. Next slide, please. So I'm going to start kind of big picture, and I'm going to run through some slides. It's difficult to pack all this into a short presentation because we really gathered so much information from this study. So just in looking at overall daily water use, for each of the cities, you can see that our water patterns are very similar. On average, in our highest outdoor water use season through the summer, about a third of all water is going to indoor, or about 35%. So 2/3 of our water use is going outside. Next slide, please. Additionally, we wanted to look at seasonality comparisons. And so the blue bar is representing water use per household in the winter. The yellow is representing water use per household in the summer. And then the gray bar is an average annual water use in between. Again, the key takeaway here is we find, regardless of the cities, on average, a household is using about 250 gallons per day in the winter and 450 gallons per day in the summer. It's about a 30% shift either way. Oh, go ahead. So then when we're looking at indoor water use, we wanted to capture how much water is going to each of these appliances and how does that relate across the cities? Is there a difference? And you can see here, there really isn't much of a difference in how much a customer is going to use their toilets, use their showers, or their dishwashers. And intuitively, this makes sense. Geography doesn't really determine these types of things. But our takeaway from that is we can use these as building blocks for average water consumption when we're doing our forecasting for a regional model, rather than keeping cities kind of separate in their water use for their indoor patterns. Next slide, please. So the other thing we wanted to consider was how EPA standards were impacting water efficiencies, national policy. So we took homes and evaluated them prior to 1995 and then after 1995 for each of these devices to see if we saw any patterns. The blue bars represent Phoenix, the green bars represent Glendale, and the purple Gilbert. And you can see we're very similar again for all cities. The only thing that we could really kind of pull out of here was for clothes washers. We definitely see that for in homes built after 1995, we do gain some efficiencies in clothes washers, which clothes washers are a large ticket item. So it makes sense that when those are replaced in newer homes, we would have a greater increase in efficiency. Next slide, please. So this is really small, and basically we wanted to look at how size of home was impacting appliance efficiencies. So for the first two graphs, we don't really see any kind of statistic or correlation that's kind of jumping out there. It's really kind of steady regardless of the size of home. But on the last bar graph, you can definitely see a decline. What that's indicating is as homes get larger, we definitely have more efficient clothes washers, which again makes sense. Your more expensive, high efficiency clothes washers would be going into larger, more expensive homes. Next slide, please. So this table is showing how the cities compared to the EPA standards, and on average, are we meeting those as a population? So we have toilets, shower heads, dishwashers, and clothes washers, again, our highest water using devices. And the only standard that we were able to meet is for shower heads. Again, this makes sense. Shower heads are relatively inexpensive to replace, so replacement has happened, more frequently than some of the other devices. So all cities were able to meet that EPA efficiency standard. We do see that there is definitely room for improvement in some of these other appliances. So in toilet retrograde or retrofit programs, or dishwashers, clothes washers. Again, another key takeaway, though, is to look at how similar each of the cities are across our study averages. Next slide, please. So this slide is a little surprising to a lot of people. We get a lot of comments, actually, when we put out this study regarding this slide. So on average in Phoenix, a lot of people, we think of, everybody having a pool, or majority of homes having a pool, when in reality only a third of our homes have a pool, or the homes that we sampled. So 2/3 of homes actually don't have a pool. Next slide, please. The next thing we wanted to do is look at outdoor landscapes. So City of Phoenix has been working on coding outdoor landscapes and using methodology for about 10 years. And we've identified about 6 categories that we can use to forecast future average water demand. So starting from the left and moving forward, it starts with our most water intensive types and then gradually transfers down. So we know that turf properties, the majority of the property that would fall in a turf category. Extensive is going to encompass homes that have a large tree canopy, also high water users. Our moderate category encompasses homes that have at least 35% of the property covered in some sort of turf. And then a sparse property will still have irrigated vegetation, but it does not contain any turf. And then arid is a property that we're assuming requires no irrigation or has native landscaping. Next, please. So for outdoor water use, for the homes that contained a pool, this is the ratio of how much water actually goes to pool use. Another thing that's very surprising for people when going through the study. It's very minimal when we compare it to the amount of water that's being used for irrigation. So a lot of people think they've got this large body of water in their backyard. It has to be using a lot of their water use monthly, and when in fact it's actually very small. Next slide, please. So this slide represents properties that contain any kind of turf. So there is 2 different types of categories we considered, those that have a majority of turf and those that had some sort of turf. So this slide represents the latter. It really kind of shows that Phoenix and Glendale are very similar. A little over 50% of the parcels had some sort of turf, and this could be a very small patch, for the dogs or the kids to play on. And Gilbert had slightly more turf properties. This is because they had slightly more moderate categories, which I'll show you in a second. Next, please. And I do see a question, is this study available online? I can provide a link directly if you would like to reach out, and I can send the study. We don't, I think we have it forward-facing on City of Phoenix. I'm not sure if ADWR has it as well. But I can look into that. So for the landscape types, so this is all the cities collective. We actually broke this out city by city and did the same pie chart. But the big takeaway is most homes are falling within that moderate category. So there is some sort of turf, but it is not containing over 35% of the parcel. 24% of homes contain no turf at all. And what's interesting is back in the 80s, or back in the 90s, 80% of parcels inside City of Phoenix had a majority of turf. We've actually reduced that, and we've seen a dramatic decrease into more native landscaping and low water intensive landscapes to now we would only account for 7% of properties that would be in that very high water use scenario. So this is really important when we're looking at conservation targets and outdoor landscaping. Next slide, please. So one of the last things we wanted to look at is how did age of home, how is turf related to that? And from this slide, you can see the largest comes from homes built prior to 1950. 32% of the homes sampled contain turf. And as we go across, moving forward to new development, those percentages get lower and lower. So that's indicating to us as new development goes in, we're definitely putting in lower water use landscapes just by nature. Those landscapes are coming out. So you can see it's less than 1% for homes built between 2000 and 2015. And this again was for all cities combined. Next slide. So this slide is really important to us. So one of the big things from the study is we wanted to be able to forecast conservation and targets. So what this slide does is we can take landscape category types and we can identify average gallons per day for those categories. So from here, in each of the cities, again, very similar in their pattern. So this lets us know it translates well over to other cities within the Phoenix metro. What we can do is, let's say if we had half of the turf properties that exist in the city move to a moderate landscape, we can quantify that water savings. And this was a key takeaway for us. Next slide. So what did we learn? Overall, indoor water use is extremely similar. We have very similar fixture and appliance efficiencies, regardless of differences in age or size of single-family homes. Most homes were either in the moderate or sparse landscape categories. Turf exists primarily in older homes. Turf covers more than 35% of the property in only 7% of the homes that we studied. And 39% of all homes studied have no turf, with 42%, 45%, and 30% respectively for Phoenix, Glendale, and Gilbert. Next slide. And last, in outdoor water use, for each landscape category, we were very similar, within 10% across all three cities. Total water use was also very similar in our winter and summer months. And we can quantify the declines in average gallons per day as homes move from more water intensive landscapes to less water intensive. Phoenix and Glendale have very similar overall water use. However, Gilbert was slightly higher due to their more moderate landscapes, so their outdoor water patterns. And 2/3 of homes do not contain swimming pools or other outdoor water features. However, for those that do, the outdoor water use is minimal compared to irrigation. Next slide, please. So in doing this, we would like to do a follow-up study looking at the multifamily sector to give us a whole range for the entire residential water demand sector. This would incorporate apartments and townhomes and condos where not a lot of information has been done. So this will help us to better identify future water supply needs and conservation in the sector. Also how it would differ from the single family across the different cities in our metro. It would also allow us to uncover regional water use trends and provide information and methods for other cities about their indoor and outdoor water use patterns and potential for water savings and conservation. Next slide, please. So City of Phoenix is requesting the council's recommendation to complete our phase 2 study. What this would do is City of Phoenix would provide in kind $280,000 towards the project, which would involve our equipment, analysis, and summary report, very similar to what we did here. And we're requesting funding in the amount of $189,000 that will help us pay for hiring of a consultant. The consultant would be able to collect indoor and outdoor water use data for us. This study is a little bit different than the first one. We had a lot of the city's involvement directly and a lot of time and hours. In this phase, we're actually having a consultant do a lot of that work and the information, collecting information about maintenance, operations, and conservation, actually going on site and doing site facility audits for us, phone market surveys, and any other proprietary data that would be helpful in the multifamily sector. Next slide. That is all I have for you. Thank you so much for letting me present, and I would be happy to answer any questions. Hello?
Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, now I can hear you.
Okay, Crystal, this is Stephen Cleveland, the chair. My compliments to you and all the participants in pulling together this lengthy study. It does raise some additional questions that I think could be explored in your phase 2, assuming it is approved. I do have a couple questions. Are you intending to incorporate your summary report that you used here with your slides, et cetera, into the executive report that you have?
So yes, I should have supplied you with an executive summary and then a brief fact sheet. I don't know if you guys received that prior to the presentation.
Yes, we have the executive report of 34 pages and we have a 2-page fact sheet. Were there any other slides in your presentation today that would enhance the report as you have produced it so far?
Probably. We've actually done a number of different slides and variations on this, and I'm trying to condense it down. I actually have a much larger presentation outside of this one that includes a lot more research and data from the larger study.
Yeah. I think that if you go back and look at some of the elements that you have in today's presentation, that they could supplement and augment what you presented in your executive report. I did have a chance to read through it, and I find this is probably 25 years in the making. We have reached a report that proves up that water conservation has helped everybody, and using water conservation tools such as shower heads, etc., has helped. And someday when we get all of our washers and dryers replaced with more efficient, your efficiency reports will demonstrate that those even improve upon what you've done. So my compliments. I would ask the council members any comments, questions that you would like to pose to Crystal. Mr. Bales?
Sorry.
Mr. Roberts, you're ready. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute there for a second. So, Crystal, thank you for presenting today. I think you did an excellent job in presenting the summary of this report. I've looked at this in the past. I think it's an excellent research that needed to be done, as Stephen mentioned. I'm glad that you're going to look into the multifamily land use as well, and water use. But I think that's a growing area, and it probably needs to be looked at relative to as we get denser within the Phoenix metropolitan area, instead of spreading out as much, that we're going to have to look at what that means for water demand. And so I applaud you to look at that. You're going to be looking at the multifamily area. And in fact, SRP would be interested in partnering with you all on this project as well, and even putting some funding into it to reduce the amount of money that you might need from the Water Management Assistance Program. So I throw that out there. We are interested in partnering with you on those types of things. So take that into consideration as well. The one question I do have is what you think the future conservation potential is, given that a lot of the conservation that we probably have seen, I mean, some of it's indoors, but a lot of it's been the changes in the outdoor water use, particularly the changes in landscaping, and the fact that not many of our homes today have large turf areas. So I think their ability to conserve even more is probably pretty limited, other than maybe the indoor side. So I just wanted to get your perspective on that. I mean, you've made a significant progress going from where you were to 93 gallons per person per day, but I'm not sure you can get much lower than 93, maybe in the 80s, maybe in the high 70s, but I'd be curious about what you think about that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And you make an excellent point, and it's definitely something that we're considering. I mean, when we know we have a large steep curve that we're approaching in water use efficiency and the gains that we've seen, there definitely is not a lot that you can squeeze out as we move forward, especially when we only have 7% of homes sitting in that high water use category. The other thing is there's the public health perspective. I mean, we have to have a balance between water conservation and, high temperatures and needing to have some tree canopy and certain, green space around. So you bring up an excellent point that we've talked about a lot. There is some gains that can be made in indoor efficiencies. I know a lot of the cities have programs and stuff that targets some of that. But the one slide looking at the EPA standards lets us know that we can still find water efficiency gains in those areas. Definitely in toilet replacement, dishwashers, clothes washers, things of that nature.
Thank you.
And I also appreciate the partnership. I will definitely be reaching out to you regarding that.
Very good. Thank you.
Very good points, Dave. Mr. Bales, do you have observations?
Mr. Chairman, yeah, I'll congratulate Crystal's great report and summary and good presentation. Mr. Chairman, this is probably more of a policy question, but I see the ask. I don't see it right in front of me now, but it's for consultant fees. Does this council have a precedence of granting out monies that are being paid to consultants? Is that something you've done in the past?
Yes, we do, and Anov can give you further details on that, but yes.
Okay, all right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's another good question. We do contract with the City of Phoenix, so we get into an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Phoenix. The City of Phoenix will allocate the funds according to what they see fit to get the project done, and we provide them with we issue the payments according to the deliverable they provide. So they may need it for a consultant fee, they may need it for work on the ground by the city, but we contract with the city and they distribute the fund how they see fit for the project.
Okay, thank you.
And we would do something similar if we were doing the water project with the Dave, what is it that we've funded for years down in the agricultural sector and
well, it's been part of the gosh, I know you could probably help me better than me.
The water conservation management program, are you thinking of?
Yes,
exactly.
Yes.
Thank you.
And we do. That's a good point, Mr. Chair. We do contract, or we have an IGA with East Maricopa and RCD, and they work with Chris Fredman.
Yep, that's right. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fairbanks, are you with us? If there's no objection to the council members, I would entertain a motion to, for ANOV to tell us, number one, what is the amount being sought for additional year of continued activity by these members, City of Phoenix,
So
to go
the
to a
amount
phase
that
two.
the Crystal mention is 189,000. However, given Mr. Roberts' suggestion for SRP to contribute additional funds, that may change. So perhaps I would direct it to you, Mr. Roberts. Did you have any amount in mind? Is that something that you're willing to commit now, or do you want to work through the process and we can come back to this suggestion the next meeting? What are your thoughts?
Well, I need to spend a little bit of time with Crystal and her folks about that, and obviously my staff. But is there a way we could approve up to 189, but it would be something less than that? We just don't know exactly what it would be.
Yes, how about a recommendation, a motion that we would approve up to 189,000 to be adjusted downward with contributions from SRP through negotiations with City of Phoenix.
That would be perfect for us. That's
Okay.
Would that work, David?
Yes, that would.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Further discussion on the motion? Yes, Frank?
is there, did Dave make that motion or are we going to make that motion? That,
We need a motion. Would you like to make it? Since the chair should not make motions, we just try to clarify.
I would move that we conceptually approve, or conceptually, I guess we don't approve anything, we always recommend, but we conceptually recommend this project with the proviso that the cities would work with SRP on the contents and funding of the program. And that with a maximum amount of, I think they said 189,000.
From ADWR, yes.
From ADWR. Having made that motion, and I make it, let me also comment, earlier, I inadvertently had my mic off when I was trying to say something. So let me.
Before you do that, Frank, can I have Mr. Bales second your motion?
Can I ask a question first?
Oh, well.
Is the 189
I need a motion so that we can then have a discussion on the motion, Mr. Bales.
Need a second.
I need a second. Are you willing to do a second, or I'll ask Mr. Roberts to do the second so we can then discuss the motion?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. Okay, so we're open for discussion and questions, and Mr. Bales, you had a question.
Yes, excuse me, is the 189, is that for 1 year or is it spread over multiple years?
Anov?
I would defer that to Crystal.
Crystal?
So usually the last project took us about a year and a half to conduct, well, 9 months to conduct the data collecting. So I would say, yes, it probably could be contained within 1 year. However, it might spill over into 2 fiscal years, or I'm not sure the you know what I mean? I don't know when things have to be paid. You know, I'd have to ask you that based on the deliverables, because we have 4 different deliverables that we have 4 different amounts that total up to the 189. So potentially we could have 2 of those in a year and then 2 of those next year.
Follow up, Mr. Bales.
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay?
Mr. Chairman, can I
Yes.
have my comment?
Yes, Frank, please.
So the motion was to conceptually approve this, subject to further work with SRP. Let me also comment, maybe I missed it, but in the information that was sent to me, I didn't see anything at all. Now, maybe I missed it and it's my fault, but I didn't see anything at all about new funding. And this is a wonderful project and it has produced tremendous results that I think we ought to continue it. And that's why I moved a conceptual recommendation to continue. But I would have liked to have seen, a page or two or three that better defined what the project was about and that had at the very least, a simple budget showing what it would cost and who would be contributing to the program.
You're
So
talking about the
because this
next
is
page. Pardon me.
the one that we're recommending right now. Did I miss something in writing about what we're being asked to approve right now?
Enough?
So I don't believe that that was included in the documents I provided to you. And Crystal, I know that you provided to us a more detailed documentation about that phase. Do you have some numbers in front of you that you would like to share with the members?
Let me see if I can pull up something real quickly.
What was page
Right
6?
now we're seeing page 59 and 61, but I'm not sure we got pages 59 and 61.
Yeah. What was page 60 in your slides?
I'm sorry, page 60 and 61. On page 60, it identifies the consultant fees and the 189. So the last two slides very generally discuss. So I think it's 59 and 60, slides 59 and 60.
Can you show us 59?
Yeah.
And can you show us then 60? There it is.
Yeah. So the 189, the consultant would basically collect indoor and outdoor water use data for the project. They would go and collect information regarding property maintenance, their operations and conservation practices. They would conduct phone market surveys, site facility audits, and other proprietary data. If the council would like to have the formal document that outlines kind of more details regarding the phase 2 project, I do have all of that. I just didn't provide it in the presentation today. I was trying to summarize.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I think this, now, am I right that we didn't get pages 58, 59, and 60 in our packet? Or did we get it and I just didn't get that far?
I don't believe I saw it. Anov, was that something that you sent out to us?
No, the information that I sent to you was only about the phase 1 of the project, so the executive report and the 2-page summary.
Okay.
And it did not include. I'll be more than happy to send, Crystal, if you have any updated version of what you shared with us a few months ago, feel free to send it to me. Otherwise, I can send what we have for this phase 2 that have a little more information on the proposal and the project itself.
Sure,
So,
I'd be happy to.
Mr. Chairman, I see on page 60 that the City of Phoenix is going to provide, I guess, a match or in kind of $280,000. Or is there any contribution by the cities of Glendale and Gilbert in the second phase?
A difference in this particular phase. We worked very closely, and there was a lot of time and labor on behalf of all three of the cities due to some, new circumstances. the cities just don't have the labor to do that. So that's why we're hiring a consultant, and we reached out to Gilbert and Glendale, and they said that they would be happy to provide data on water consumption, but as far as any of the actual analysis and landscape coding and a lot of the stuff that went into the phase 1 effort, it would be all the city of Phoenix doing that this time.
So am I correct in looking at page 60, saying that the city of Phoenix will provide $280,000 worth of in-kind and other contributions to this multifamily project?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you very much. That's very helpful.
Does that alter, Mr. Fairbanks, does that alter your proposed motion?
No, my motion was to conceptually approve this pending discussions with SRP and the city of Phoenix.
Okay. Is that acceptable to you, Mr. Bales? Or Mr. Roberts, whoever made the second?
Roberts.
Yeah, it's
Roberts.
acceptable to me, Mr. Chair.
Okay, okay. Is there any further discussion before I make a call for the vote? Hearing none, all in favor of this motion, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Okay, good job.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Roberts.
No, we're good. I was just going to ask for Crystal's contact information, and guess what? It's right on the screen.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Chair and Councilman Spurs. I appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Clairvoyance does exist. Okay. We are now ready to move on to item number 5, which is the management plan update. Amanda Long Rodriguez, staff members prepared to do that. It's in front of us.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the council. My name is Amanda Long Rodriguez, and I am the Management Plans Program Coordinator. And I'm going to update you today on the current status of the 4th Management Plans, the 5th Management Plans, and also introduce to you a web page that we have created to help with the development of the 5th Management Plans. So I'll start with the 4th Management Plans. Thanks, Kennedy. So we did set a goal to complete the remaining 4th Management Plans by the end of 2020, and we are on track to reach that goal. We are concurrently working on development of the 5th Management Plans and continuing to move forward with both of these timelines. Next slide, please, Kennedy. Thank you. General process for the development of the 4th Management Plan is along the top of this slide. The Phoenix AMA, as you know, completed this process in the spring of this year. The Pinal AMA just completed the public hearing process at the end of last month, and the final adoption is expected in the fall. The Santa Cruz AMA hearing will be later this month, and this plan is expected to be adopted by the end of this year. The conservation requirements go, oh, sorry, Kennedy. Thanks. Conservation requirements go into effect at the at least 2 years after the plan has been adopted. So if all goes as scheduled, the remaining 4th Management Plans will be adopted by the end of this year. Conservation programs will go into effect in 2023. And now I'll update you on the 5th Management. So last year we developed the Management Plan work groups, which is the public stakeholder process for the development of the 5th. We are actively meeting with each of the sector subgroups to develop the concepts for the 5th Management Plan. Once this process is complete at the end of the year or early next year, we plan on spending most of 2021 actually drafting the plans, and then 2022 adopting the plans with the goals for the plan to become effective in 2025. Next slide, please, Kennedy. Thanks. So the management work group, again, our stakeholder process for the 5th Management Plan. We have been meeting regularly since the initial meeting in July of 2019. We started with assessing the existing conservation programs and we have now updating the existing strategies and developing new concepts. As a part of this developmental phase, we want to create one location for all the information related to the strategies and concept proposals. So we created the 5th Management Plan's concept webpage, which I will walk you through today. Next slide, please, Kennedy. So this is the landing page for the website, and if Kennedy, you'll pass me the ball, I will walk you through it. Thank you. All right, so this is the landing page for the 5th Management Plan's concept page. It is structured and organized according to subgroup. So I'll walk you through the subgroups here to show you the organization of this website. So if you click on one of the subgroups, the concepts that we have discussed in the subgroups will appear. And so for the agricultural subgroup, there are 2 concepts. The first is the tiers for the BMP program. Underneath the concept is a general description of the concept. And then underneath that is the subgroup meetings that the concepts appeared at, and a summary of the work group meeting. And then below that is any dashboards or illustrations or graphics or tables that were associated with the concept. So for this particular concept is a dashboard. This is embedded into the web page, and it is interactive, so it can be toggled with there or expanded here at the bottom. And then below that, we have an area for stakeholder comments. So in our subgroups, we have started developing questionnaires that stakeholders can respond to and leave comments about the concepts that we discussed in the subgroups. So we've listed the response there, and if there are any other comments, we would have listed them here below as well. And wanted to also leave a reminder of where additional comments could be sent. So we left our management plan's email address here as well. On the egg, we have another concept as well, and this is organized in the same way. We have a description of the concept, the meeting, where it was presented at, a summary of the meeting, and then this particular concept had a illustration, which we have included here, and then again, the comments below, and our email address as a reminder of where additional comments can be left. So we really just wanted one place, central location where you could go to get all the relevant information about the concepts that we're discussing in the subgroups. And the additional subgroups, I won't go through them for time's sake, but they are structured the same way. So before we go back to the presentation, I'll stop here if there are any questions from the council.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Frank.
I'd just like to compliment the staff. It seems to be very well thought out and very well organized. And I think a key to all of these programs, which are necessarily difficult because they require sacrifice on the part of all of these sectors, that the easier it is to understand and the easier it is to get access to proposals, the better off we all are. So I'd congratulate staff. There's clearly a lot of thought gone into making sure that people understand what's being discussed and proposed. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. I appreciate that.
Please go ahead. Any other comments, questions? Okay, Amanda, go ahead and proceed.
Thank you, Chairman. Kennedy, if you want to take the ball back to the presentation.
Is that it?
I have one more slide.
Okay.
Thanks. So I just wanted to end with the upcoming management plan work meetings that we have. We have a full work group scheduled for December the 9th, and then several other work groups listed there on the slide below. And the dates are also available on that website located on the slide there. And with that, I'd like to thank you for your time and attention, and my contact information is available on the slide here, and I'm happy to take any questions from the council.
Council members, any questions of Amanda? Very well done. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Let's move on to item 6, which is the AMA Director Report. Anov.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Given we're a few minutes after 4, I'm going to try and go through it as quick as I can, so it'll probably take me about 7 minutes or so. So I'll start with the 2019 Annual Water Withdrawal and Use Reporting Update. As you know, annual reports are due on March 31st. However, in response to COVID-19 emergency, ADWR waived all late fees associated with filing reports from March 31st through June 26th. This put us about 2 months past this date, and we are able to collect some statistics about the reporting season. We expect about 6,500 reports, almost like 6,600 annual reports to be filed for year 2019, and we've so far received about 5,900 reports. There are 682 fail to file reports, which is about 10.4 failure to file rate. This number is actually a bit higher than we've seen in previous years. So for example, last year we've spent about 7.6% in July. However, given COVID situation and people unable to work in the regular capacity, we feel that it's pretty understandable. We sent failure to file letters in mid-July to owners of all missing reports, generated additional legal filing, and we will send another final failure to file letter in the next few weeks, which we hope will help to further reduce this failure to file number. The table in the bottom breaks down reports received online and as hard copy or in paper form. So about 2,800 reports, or 49%, were filed online, and 2,950 reports, or 51%, were filed as hard copies. This is actually an increase of about 6% of reports filed online from last year. In addition to COVID situation and all of us working in a much higher remoting capacity, we also were able to redesign the electronic annual reporting tool in collaboration with our IT team. And the idea behind this redesign is to improve functionality and performance of the tool. So we believe that those two aspects were the cause of increasing in online reporting. As you see, we still have about half of the reports still filed by hand. Some of it is because not all of the reports are available online. These are usually the reports that are a little more complex to build as an electronic form, such as municipal providers, irrigation districts, and such. But we do try to add more and more reports as time goes by, and we also see an increase in online reporting since the online reporting tool became existent in 2007. So we hope to see that online reporting increasing with time. As I would suspect you probably know, submitting reports online is really beneficial to us, and we believe also to the water users and the greater community. First, because the data from these reports enters the database automatically, so it helps reduce human error, both of the reporter and of ADWR staff. It also allows the staff to devote more time to quality control, to planning activities, data transparency initiatives, and other water resources efforts that we can do instead of spending hours on data entry alone. So this sums the first part of my report, talking about the 2019 annual reporting season, and I can take any questions you have on this, and if not, I can move on to the next update I have.
Are there any questions at this time?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Proceed.
Excellent. So the second part of my report is to talk about some recent activities of the Governor's Water Augmentation, Innovation, and Conservation Council. I'm going to briefly just call it the council. And we have mentioned the council in previous meeting, but really briefly, the council in general is charged with a number of items. Most significantly is to identify and recommend opportunities for water augmentation, innovation, and conservation for Arizona. The council is also tasked with providing guidance on issues to ADWR director upon the director's request, and the council does meet every quarter. At the last meeting of the council, March 13, ADWR provided the council with foundational information regarding tribal water rights and water rights settlements to ensure a basic understanding ahead of presentations by the tribes. The tribes who provide this presentation will speak to the council regarding tribal water rights and water rights settlements at a special meeting of the council on September 10th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. So again, it's coming up very soon. If you're interested, please mark it in your calendars. The council will also hold its next regular scheduled meeting on September 15th from 10 a.m. till noon. So again, if you're interested, we'll be happy to have you join us. The council has currently 4 working committees. The first is the Long-Term Augmentation Committee with the purpose of identifying and exploring methods of augmenting water supplies in Arizona. The second is the Desalination Committee, and its purpose is to identify opportunities to assist in developing potential desalination projects, as well as to evaluate and overcome barriers to such projects. And the third is the Non-AMA Groundwater Committee. Its purpose is to address groundwater issues and concerns outside the active management areas. And the fourth meeting, which I would suspect is probably one of the most important to us here in the GOAC and the members of the public, is the Post-2025 AMAs Committee. And its purpose is to identify challenges within the active management areas and generate strategies and solutions beyond the year 2025. So I'll provide a little bit more detail about this committee. It began its work on identifying challenges in October 2019, and will continue the process of issue identification and analysis throughout 2020. The committee plans to have a consensus-based list of issues, each described in an issue brief, which they'll bring to the full council for consideration and discussion no later than December 2020 council meeting. Once there is consensus around the issues and priorities and there is support from the council, work to develop the solutions to those issues will begin in 2021. So far, the committee has completed 3 issue briefs. One is on replenished groundwater pumping, the second is hydrologic disconnect, and the third is exempt wells. During the last meeting of the committee, which was held last Wednesday, there was a robust discussion regarding the Central Arizona Groundwater Replenishment District role within the Assured Water Supply Program. So in general, those committee meetings are where much of the council work is accomplished, and these meetings are all open to the public. They include both council and non-council members, and there's no formal membership, so we really do encourage anyone who may be interested in contributing to attend and participate in the discussions. As the GOAC meetings, the council meetings are also all recorded and available on ADWR website. So if you're interested in any of the previous meetings I mentioned, feel free to look at our website and find these recordings. Also on our public meeting page, you would see all the dates that we currently have for future meetings. So if you are interested in any of those committees or the council, you can look at the page and see any future dates that have been scheduled. And that sums up my second part of my report, Mr. Chair.
Are there any questions or comments from council members?
Nope.
Seeing none, proceed.
And this sums up my AMA director report, sir, unless there are any other issues you would like me to touch on here.
Well, let's have a call to the council and see if they have any other issues.
Mr. Chairman, just very quickly, the Enov and her staff do tremendous work, and it's really impressive to see all the things they're involved in and they're getting done. I don't know how they get it all done on as well, and they do tremendous work. I would request that in the future, when we have a request for the committee to recommend something on a vote, that we receive a page or two, something simple when we talk about a program that explains the program's goals, what's to be accomplished, what the funding is, what the timing is, those kind of simple details, so that when we do recommend something, we have a good understanding of what it is we're recommending. I think today, when we talked about, there's a very good briefing on the withdrawal fees, and I think we got all of the information that we needed on that. I'm not sure I got everything that I would have liked to have to really understand the funding we were recommending on WET and the regional water use study, both of which are outstanding projects. But I think we do need to know, at least make sure that we know some of the detail of the project so that we can discharge our responsibilities in terms of reviewing these. Again, I just want to compliment Enov and all of the staff for their tremendous work that they do on all of these things. So this isn't a criticism. This is just my own little phobia or need for just a touch more information. Thank you.
We'll be more than happy to do so, and thank you for that suggestion. It's a great suggestion.
Anyone else on the council wish to bring forward a comment on any topic?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd just like to say thank you to the council and the staff for the warm welcome this morning. This afternoon, you're right. Following Ron Rayner is an impossible act to follow, but I'm glad to be here. Water is near and dear to my heart. I guarantee you that. And I encourage any of you folks to reach out to me. I'm eager to learn, and I have a lot to learn. I can see that today. But a good meeting, Mr. Chairman, and thanks for the welcome.
Great. Anything, Mr. Roberts? I would like to follow up on Frank's observation. I think it is really a good idea, and I think it's a positive comment, a positive request. We are in the process of rebuilding an airplane while we fly it. And today we pulled off a couple of engines and we replaced them in midair without crashing our project or the plane. And so staff, please feel good about the things you have accomplished. We're learning by doing. So again, kudos to each of you. We do have several calls to the comments from the public. Are any of those, do we follow up on those here now? Anov, do any of the members of the audience wish to have follow up on them right now?
So I believe that most of the comments were regarding the presentation by Crystal, and they were answered on the chat box. However, if there is something that was missed, and if a member of the public is interested in making any comments, please do so on the chat box or ask us to unmute you.
Okay, and I would just ask one question. Is there anything that we at this moment need to act on as a result of those comments, or can those carry over to a future meeting?
No, not at that point. Comments were just clarification and to provide some information. And there are some links for those who may have not had a chance to see. I'll just mention maybe really briefly that Carlos asked if the presentation and executive summary that Crystal talked about for the water use study will be available. We are going to edit to the Water Management Assistant Program webpage in the next few days. So if you're interested, please do go to that page, and the link is there. Amanda also shared the 5MP or Fifth Management Plan concept page that she presented on, so the link is there as well.
So I would ask of staff at such time as you make those links, please advise all of us that you have done that so that we can then go and look at them as time permits.
I would say in probably 2 days or less, it's going to be there.
Fantastic. Is there anything else that the public would like to bring forward before I call for adjournment?
I don't see any further comments, sir.
Okay, so at this time, it's 4:20, 4:21. I will adjourn the meeting of the Groundwater Users Advisory Council, Phoenix AMA. Thanks, everybody, for your patience and your participation. The meeting's adjourned.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You all.
Good night.
Take care.
Good night.
Good night.